Red meat and heart health, what you should know. Hi, my name is Sio Gilardi, and my research topic is about something that's part of many people's everyday meals, red meat, and how it might affect your heart health, or in other words, increase your risk of cardiovascular disease. What is cardiovascular disease? CVD is defined as a group of conditions that affect the heart and blood vessels and can lead to heart attack, stroke, high blood pressure, and heart failure. It is the number one cause of death worldwide. That means it takes more lives than any other disease, even cancer. Tasty but risky. Red meat is popular around the world. It's tasty, it's full of minerals like iron and vitamins, and it makes up a big part of traditional meals in many cultures. But eating too much of it could raise your risk of heart problems, including heart attacks, high blood pressure, and stroke. Increased risk of cardiovascular disease and consumption of red meat, a study. A study led by Dr. Dong-D Wang and conducted by researchers from Harvard University and the Million Veteran Program looked at how red meat intake affects the risk of heart disease. They found that on average, people who consumed more overall red meat were faced with an 18% increased risk of cardiovascular disease, as shown in this table taken directly from the study. Unprocessed versus processed red meat. Processed red meat refers to any meat that has been preserved by smoking, curing, salting, or using preservatives. Such examples are bacon, sausage, ham, canned meat, pate, and salami. Unprocessed red meats are things such as beef, veal, lamb, mutton, pork, goat, and venison. It is important to note that things like poultry, such as chicken or turkey, and things like fish are not listed as red meat. Unprocessed versus processed red meat. Is there a difference in risk? The answer according to this study is yes. Unprocessed meats like beef, pork, or lamb increase the risk of cardiovascular disease by 14%. Where processed meats like bacon, sausages, or deli meats raise the risk of cardiovascular disease by 29%. That's almost a third more risk. How much is too much? The Jackson Heart Study had the same question. In this study, they looked at meat consumption and heart disease risk among African American adults over almost 10 years. A serving of red meat is roughly 4.2 ounces, and the study found that people who ate about 3 servings of unprocessed red meat per week, especially beef, had a significantly higher risk of stroke, around 43% more. A lot of people have trouble estimating how much 4 ounces or 1 serving of red meat is. This chart is particularly helpful to estimate measurements with no food scale needed. If you simply look at your hand, you can estimate that your palm is roughly 3 to 4 ounces, or 1 standard serving of meat. So what is going on inside the body? There was a big study in Nature Medicine in 2013 that showed how gut bacteria turn L-carnitine from red meat into a substance that can lead to heart disease. Red meat contains something called L-carnitine. When you eat red meat, the gut microbiome turns L-carnitine into a chemical called TMA. TMA is converted to TMAO in the liver. TMAO travels in your blood and can damage your arteries, making heart disease more likely. They also found that people who eat a lot of red meat, like omnivores, have much higher levels of TMAO than the people who don't eat meat, like vegans, automatically putting people who eat red meat at a higher risk for cardiovascular disease, or more specifically, atherosclerosis. This chart is a very brief and simple way to see how this body process works. It's all about balance. Another big study from 2020 in the BMJ looked at men in the US and found that eating more red meat was linked to a higher risk of heart disease. They also found that eating plant-based proteins like soy, nuts, and legumes instead was linked to a lower risk, especially in older men. The findings support cutting back on red meat and swapping it for healthier options like whole grains, dairy, eggs, or plant protein. Examples of alternate protein in meals. These are just a few examples of alternative meals to red meat to switch out so as to stay under the 3 servings per week recommendation. Such examples are tofu, which is soy-based, oatmeal with nuts and berries, and black bean tacos. Keep in mind, there are many options to switch out, such as things containing beans or nuts, eggs or dairy, whole grains or fish, but these are just some specific examples. What you can do. The takeaways. Enjoy red meat in moderation. Choose lean cuts and avoid heavily processed meats. Try to eat more plant-based proteins. Include fish or poultry instead of red meat sometimes. Take care of your heart. Your heart works hard for you every day, so show it some love. Think about what's on your plate and know that small changes can make a big difference in the long run. What I've learned is that red meat can raise heart disease risk, but it's not dangerous in moderation. As long as we keep it to around 3 servings a week and include foods like fish, nuts, legumes, whole grains, and poultry, red meat can still be part of a healthy diet.